Don't quit your day job, Rich, when it comes to painting, which coincidentally is day job Heroes of the Storm, so it's all right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Mid-Season Brawl here as we get into the thick of things in the upper bracket. Yes, that's right. In the morning through into the afternoon, it was just the lower bracket that we were getting done with, and now we move on to some really big guns after what we saw in the group stage. To my left-hand side, I have Kaldor, I have Skimmy, and I have Wolf joining me on the desk here, and let's just take a step back a second, because that series, Kaldor, I know, you know, a little bit raspy maybe, huh?
Yeah, definitely. It was actually the first thing that I did. Tim and I walked down and we got just like drops for the throat because that series was insane. Like, both of us were sweating like crazy in the box up there, but that could have been a grand final.
Look, I went outside right there, 2-0 down. I actually got to meet Breeze's mum for the very first time. And she had so much confidence, like, we're just going to do a reverse sweep.
Okay, here's the question. How many Fnatic stickers did you get?
I got 0. You know, I'm not cool enough.
What, really?
I didn't get any. I didn't ask, actually. I should have asked.
She probably didn't have any. Believe me, she
didn't have them on her.
She's going to have a
But she told me, right, she's like, we're going to get a reverse sweep. There's going to be a 3-2. That confidence inspired me. It happened. We're in Sweden.
I want you to come back next Fnatic series with Fnatic stickers from Breeze's mum all over your face. And that will work out. Wolf, what did you think of the series?
I thought it was really fun. In general, I thought we saw some crazy drafts in the beginning, and I thought that Fnatic was going to lose the series 3-0. Like, I was absolutely confident that that was going to be how it ended. And then at the end of the day, we saw that crazy reverse sweep. The final game, Jay and I were standing up backstage, jumping up and down during that final fight there, where they were pushing the core. Lunara damage was coming through, but they couldn't finish it. It was really, really fun.
I still want to say that I'm really impressed by how Method played. Fnatic, of course, making a reverse sweep happen just from a mental perspective is always huge, but I think Method had such a great series and they deserved the victory there as well. So I feel we can't understate how much they improved, let's say, just from the Western Clash to this series.
Well, let's take a look at the schedule, of course, as we've had 2 series done and we have 3 more left to go. 2 in the main tournament and that 1 all-star match at the very end of the day. But look at those names that we have left to play today. Later on, we're going to have Tempest going up against Tempo Storm. That's going to be a fun one for the commentators. And then we have Team Dignitas going up against Gen.G next. And overall, this is a big fixture that a lot of people have been looking forward to, especially considering what happened in 2017's Mid-Season Brawl.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, the Koreans, after the 2017 Mid-Season Brawl, have already said we were really disappointed with how we played there. That's where Dignitas crowned themselves the Korean killers as well. Yeah. And they definitely came here to change all of that. And to be quite fair with you, so far, especially Tempest and Gen.G look fantastic. Only Tempest dropped a map, and Gen.G is still undefeated. So that is just fascinating and terrifying if you're Dignitas.
We can talk about them in a moment, but of course, let's introduce our first team here to the Mid-Season Brawl. Currently undefeated and looking for a tournament championship itself, it's Gen.G.
일단 오늘 전승으로 끝난 게부터가 굉장히 만족스럽고요. 지금 상황에서 유럽 팀들이 지금 생각보다 잘하지 않고 있어요. 그래서 이대로 계속 간다면은 결국엔 한국 팀끼리 1등, 2등 싸움일 것 같아요.
젠지가 다른 팀보다 특이한 거는 일단 저희끼리 맞춰온 합이 다른 팀보다 훨씬 길어가지고 팀워크가 좋다는 점, 그게 저희만의 장점인 것 같아요.
이게 진짜 무패로 올라온 게 맞나 싶을 정도로 진짜 기분이 많이 좋아요 지금.
With Sonya hammering away, slamming away, reset, jumping over, unleashing another combo. The ice block keeping Saka alive as they take down the core and obliterate Fnatic.
저희가 연습량은 다른 팀에 비해서 엄청나게 많이 한다고는 할 수 없겠지만 제가 봤을 때 다른 사람한테는 좀 잔혹할지도 모르는데 재능 차이인 것 같아요.
No beating around the bush, this team is explosive and excellent. Wolf, the only time in the group stage that they even really broke any kind of sweat was against Ballistics, and they still won that game anyway.
I think you could argue there were some problems against Tempo Storm as well. It was not a completely flawless series, but yeah, the series that we saw when they were facing off against Ballistics was much more competitive in terms of how exciting it was, how many team fights were lost by Gen.G. But this team hails from Korea, coming out undefeated from the group stage. They're here for revenge. This is a redemption story for this team. Not only did they lose last year before making it to the grand finals, they failed in 2016 Summer Global Championship, not the Mid-Season Brawl, different name back then. They failed in that finals in that 5th game against Tempest. So this is a tournament they've been to now 3 times, but this is the most explosive start they've had yet. And I think that we have to predict this team as the favorite, regardless of drafts, no matter what comes into game number 1. You have to look at this and say Dignitas is massively the underdogs.
Yeah, I mean, they exude confidence. They have strategy after strategy, and just complete consistency for me is the name of the game. I'm looking at some of these games, and we're actually reviewing those VODs, and it's quite hard to try and nitpick and find out where certain things go wrong. And that level of consistency is very tough.
Yeah.
When at the highest level of Heroes of the Storm, you're trying to create an opportunity to capitalize on.
Right.
If it's never been presented to you on that table, then how do you actually try and tackle this team?
It felt like in 2017, their motivations were a little bit off when it came to the Mid-Season Brawl, but Kaldor in 2018, they are absolutely on point by the looks of things.
They definitely are, and they also have the training mentality for it. I mean, immediately, the funny thing to me was actually on social media, on Twitter, when Fnatic tweeted out about their little bootcamp that they had when they had downtime. And the first thing that happens is that Rich jumps in the conversation and is like, where is that? I want to train too. So everybody shut him down immediately, said like, no, you're too strong already. You can't get more training. It's already difficult enough to beat you guys. But you're absolutely right. They dominate right now. They are, as Wolf said, the favorites for sure in the series. But I'm sure that Dignitas came up with some kind of strategy on how to take them down. This is a best of 5, so not a best of 2. So there's definitely also adjustments over the series, and that's normally where Europeans might have a bit of an edge, just adjusting within the series and trying to make a change happen that the other team can't react to.
And speaking of which, our second team moving on here into this series, they're the Korean Killers from 2017 Mid-Season Brawl. It is Team Dignitas.
It feels pretty good to be here. I think the group stage was more of a relaxing phase, and this is where the real tournament starts, so we're excited.
I think the first day was really rough. We played fairly well versus Tempest, but we were super sloppy in our late game in both games. We lost both of them, and then we had a really bad game against Method on the first map. But after that, we just started playing really well, and we won every map after that. So really happy with how we've performed, especially against Heroes Hearth. We completely played our game and ran over them, so I'm really happy with how that went.
They move for the core, all the lanes getting pushed out, big stun coming in, down goes Decken as the shield on the core is just non-existent. Full team wiped by Dignitas, and they will take game number 1.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to play here. I have family and friends that are gonna come and watch, and it's like on turf, so it's gonna be very fun for sure.
It would be completely amazing to win MSB. In front of home crowd in Jönköping, it would be an amazing feeling to win.
One man in particular, and Whoopi, of course, was crowned champion this time last year, but overall Team Dignitas came very close. It was not the same roster that we saw last year in 2017 Skimmy, but this roster just seems to have gone from strength to strength to strength, and is trying to prove themselves here.
Yeah, absolutely. If we look at their league performance, they were, you know, just completely dominant in the same fashion that Gen.G were back on their own home soil. They've come into this tournament, they've realized that, hey, it wasn't as strong as we'd like to sort of get out those gates, but this is that kind of team that have the history, they have the accolades amongst multiple different members to really bounce back and try and show us something that can happen. I think coming into game 1, it's going to be a real true telling of actually confidence versus reality, and if we can actually see them really giving Gen.G a run for their money.
I think that we have to talk about Zalia. I think he's been one of the better supports in this tournament. I mean, easily for me, top 3. He's at least outperformed Moggy, and you know, in terms of teams that are actually up in the winner bracket doing well. And I mean, he's got big shoes to fill, right? One of the most legendary supports of all time, Bakery on Team Dignitas. He steps into those shoes here in this new roster. He's been playing fantastic. His Twilight Dreams, his protection on the support heroes, and also Dignitas' ability to run so many different types of strategies. We're seeing the Medivh, we saw the early in the tournament with the Diablo Lightning Breath, and moving into Stitches later on, JPL bringing out an old favorite. So this team, in terms of its strategic depth and its support play, should not be underestimated.
One of the things that I feel that we have to highlight with them is especially the attitude. even when they dominated Europe, it was always, we need to make sure that we don't underestimate anyone. We have our eyes on the mid-season brawl, we have our eyes on BlizzCon, and we want to beat the Koreans. Especially when you talk to someone like Poik and Snitch, they are very vocal about this. They're saying, we played at GCWC against them, and we want to make sure that we are not losing against them again. And they are the ones that we really want to take these fights to, and they can do that here now. So this is a chance for them to prove that ambition, and I feel they have the attitude to make it happen. But as we said before, Gen.G is an insanely strong opponent, and it's not going to be easy by any means.
All right. Well, let's get into game number 1 then. This happens fast. As Gen.G is going to go up against Dignitas. This is the winner's bracket. So the winner will move on to the winner's bracket final. The loser will fall down into the lower bracket against one of the opponents that we've already just seen before. So ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it. Game number 1.
So it's going to be Dragonshire. The thing to point out, of course, is the ban on BOE that we saw in the map draft. So avoiding Gen.G's strongest map here from the get-go. They really want this to be a great start to the series. Dragonshire will be the first map, Gen.G taking the first ban. We'll find out where Gen.G wants to take this draft, because the theme for Gen.G throughout the group stage was hiding strategies, unusual drafts, the Sergeant Hammer pick we saw come out, and some other weird picks and protection strategies we even saw in the Ballistic series. And how they draft in this series, if they start to struggle, is going to really, I think, show weaknesses potentially in this team, or at least some sort of tendencies for this team's drafting going into now the big important moments of the playoffs.
And one of the things that I find, one of the things I'm looking for Dignitas on this map in particular is actually Muradin, because that has in league play and also at the tournament been a constant go-to for JPL. And it was more so impressive in the European setup than here, because we've seen through the mid-season brawl group stage that Muradin actually started to rise a lot in value for the teams, a lot in priority. But Dignitas has always highlighted him very much so in Dragonshire, so that's something that I would expect now to come out unless Gen.G themselves go for it. Now we've seen, of course, Johanna being played quite a lot. We had like a plethora of tanks being played, but I think if Dignitas gets what they really want here, they will go into a Muradin later on that route.
Yeah, I really actually like the Muradin, especially into a backline Malfurion. I think the biggest thing for me that I took away from, especially that second game when Gen.G took on Ballistics, is that Ballistics, for the most part, on Battlefield of Eternity, had a very strong early game. Things started to turn around, however, once the Haymaker came into play, they were able to isolate out that Malfurion, really try and shut him down pre-13. So if you're looking to try and acquire an early game, it's a case of trying to ride the momentum from mid to late game with that pick comp that they're going to have. The diving potential of both the Muradin and the Tracer already gives them a very definitive idea.
So Tracer has been in almost every single one of our first ban phases throughout today's first set of matches. And she gets picked up here early by Dignitas, so high priority there with the Muradin. So there's several ways you could deal with the Tracer pick. One way is to ban out a secondary support like a Tastar here to help eliminate how much effectiveness Tracer can have. Another way is to try to pick counter picks to it, like the Johanna, who has strong blinds, good wave clear for the map in general. Blaze as well, where you can mitigate some of that pulse bomb damage with a bunker, for example. So Gen.G, again, still drafting cautiously, drafting safely. They're just slowly responding to Dignitas' picks right now.
You know, one of the things that's interesting about Tracer, I mean, we have, of course, seen the priority the entire time, especially in the series that we already had. But if you look at the group stage, then at first glance, Tracer doesn't look too impressive. With 13 wins and 8 losses, she has a 62% win ratio. The interesting thing comes into play when you eliminate all of the teams that play Tracer that are not here anymore. If you only look at the teams that made it into the final 8, then all of a sudden, Tracer's win rate skyrockets up to 85%, which is absolutely crazy. And that just highlights, again, why she has such a huge priority here for every team either getting banned or picked very, very early.
Yeah, the playmaking potential for me just signifies why she's that strong hero. Dignitas have done their homework, however. They've seen that 2 games have been played at the Sergeant Hammer during that group stage, and this was a bit of an old school strategy if we run it back a few years. We had the Sergeant Hammer in that bottom lane. You'd complement that with a Malfurion, extremely strong sieging potential, not to mention the armor on demand. If you're looking to be dived upon, if you cannot find that kill, the sustaining element will trump the burst.
This is actually something that a lot of the European teams and everyone else after the group stage have also looked at a lot more closely, those hammer plays in general. Like, especially in Hero League games, they've been starting to spam them out and just see, okay, let's try what we can do with that. How much value does that add? Is it something that we need to respect, or is it something where we can just simply develop a strategy that counters that out? But you can see the respect on Dignitas' side.
It's very frustrating to play against when you're playing against such a safe Sergeant Hammer player like Rich. It's not necessarily the greatest pick Gen.G could have picked here, but they've already utilized it quite well in the past. So when you're not sure what direction they're going to take, why don't you just ban out something you've already seen find great success on this map? The Tassadar ban goes back to what I was saying earlier. You're just limiting how well the heroes that are going to be working with Tracer come through here. You've already got the blind, now you've got the Tassadar removed. So it gets a little bit difficult to find the secondary support here for this Tracer with Dignitas' comp they're building right now.
And you know, with Hammer in the setup, if you play with Tracer and you actually like try to play around that, and Tassadar is already banned out, Hammer hits pretty hard on the auto attacks, and that's something that Tracer doesn't like at all. Then you have Blaze and Johanna, so there's a lot of protection, and they just respect that setup. So they want to make sure that they're not running into some kind of composition where Tracer just can't find value.
I think that aside from the damage, it's like it puts a timer on a Tracer's head, right? So you have to commit so much of your dive in to even try and deal with something like a Hammer. And if you are unsuccessful, you're probably going to die in that moment. So
you've also wasted your recall. Your relevance is
scary.
So much smaller for a few moments if you fail to get that pick. And you know, that's one of the things that I think Gen.G has really excelled at in this tournament, is especially Kyocha in the top lane, is being greedy but always surviving, always pushing the boundaries as to what you can do in terms of pushing power, whether it's the Sergeant Hammer, whether it's the top laner. It's going to be the Hanzo coming through. I was thinking we might see something a little bit more bursty, given that it is going to be Stukov on the other side with a Tracer. But again, they're going for a safer, slower approach. And it is going to be Hanzo who can clear camps very quickly, so you take early camp control. You've got the ability to quick clear that bottom neutral camp, and Falstad has the global presence. So really, really cool draft here for Gen.G.
Skimmy, your thoughts?
I was getting hung up on the idea of the Phoenix. For me personally, I've seen Gen.G run it. It gives a lot of synergy and a very safe pick in that backline if you are going to be jumped upon, especially with the slowing components and how that can be empowered by his kit. You're looking at Blaze, you're looking at Johanna. So I feel like that's a great denial that Dig have then gone for. They've already got the slow of their own with the Mirrodin Thunderclap and the Stukov with the Lurking Arm. I feel like if we're looking at this one right now, it is pretty bread cutter in terms of they're trying to go straight in, look for that pick, try and get a Lurking Arm down and try and silence somebody out. The question is, though, if they do not find that burst, we've seen what Gen.G have been able to do. They've been able to turn things around. This is what I'm, I suppose, alluding to, is the idea of consistency. If you have a strategy, you've got to make sure the execution is clean and cut.
It's a huge amount of fight control, isn't it, really, from Gen.G's side of things? Battle control.
Yeah, the Dahaka pick is going to help alleviate some of the global problems they're going to deal with a really good wave clear on the side of Gen.G. I was wondering if maybe we were going to see some sort of secondary support here come through, and they would have Phoenix as the top laner, the sole laner there to kind of off-soak. But I think that's just too greedy, too risky against a team like Gen.G, so the Dahaka pick is safer for sure.
Thoughts, Caldo?
I mean, my heart beats for Europe here, but at the same time, I'm looking at the drafts, and first of all, I find it impressive how much Falstad we've seen in this tournament in general, considering that everyone before said Falstad is so vulnerable, he gets blown up too much, especially with the mobile heroes that we have. I think that's pretty noticeable. But yeah, I feel that setup that Gen.G has is actually crazy. Blaze, Johanna, and this is very sustainable. So I'm afraid for Dignitas just because we have a team that executes so well and just doesn't allow you any mistakes. There aren't going to be any staggered cooldowns on those heroes, and there's so many layer of defenses for Gen.G. This is a tough one.
Time for predictions.
Okay, draft aside, I think if you predict Dignitas here, you're just factually wrong. You're actually
now I'm tempting to do it just to fight you, for no other reason.
We have an undefeated team that's looked in higher form than anybody else. They've shown the least amount of drafts, and this is just talking about the series in general. I mean, this draft is better, I think, for Gen.G, but for this first game, like, how can you vote Dignitas here? You can't. It has to be Gen.G.
Yeah, I have to say the same. We haven't really seen Gen.G face too much adversity. We don't really know where Dignitas are coming into this one with, so I want to see exactly what Dignitas can showcase in game number 1, and then maybe my predictions will change as the series unfolds.
Caldo?
I mean, I totally want to go Gen.G, but after what Wolf just said...
I voted for you, I'm sorry.
At that point, I'm just like, just to spite it. No, but I have to agree. I feel with the track record that they have, with the execution that they've shown, at this point, Dignitas, before I have enough faith, needs to prove that they can play on the same level. Because so far in the group stage, they haven't done that, so I vote for Gen.G as well.
And just to put some numbers behind this for a lot of people out there that may not be 100% as familiar with Heroes of the Storm as these guys, Gen.G right now are on, what, something like 30-some plus and 0 right now when it comes to map scores. So until Gen.G actually loses that, I think I'll be going with Gen.G as well. They're looking dominant, they're looking on form. Let's check in with what Twitch chat thinks as well at home. I think there might be some Dignitas push there. Yeah, 57% of you believe that Dignitas will have a good shot here. 43% for Gen.G. So let's see how this is going to unfold as we're going on to Dragonshire. Let's check in with our commentators as well. And guys, what are your estimations coming into this first game of the series?
Dignitas taken the best team in the world to their best map and clearly had a plan in mind. I actually like what Dignitas has going.
But I would argue it's a little bit high risk. You know, the Tracer without the Tassadar, without the Malfurion, and then we talked about the synergies. Johanna, Blaze, Hanzo, and Malfurion. It's going to be a tough game here for Dig.
Well, high execution on the side of Dig. Let's see if they can pull it off. Take it away, boys.
Dreadnought kicking things off here in the upper bracket with two of the arguably best teams in the world here as Gen.G. Dignitas, last year they were the Korean Slayers. I feel like if it's gonna start happening, now's gotta be the time.
Yeah, they were the Western hope here coming in to the mid-season brawl, but in the blue, ladies and gentlemen, it is the beast known as Gen.G, where we're gonna have Sake there on Malfurion, Kyoto playing the Blaze, Tist on his Johanna, Rich on Hanzo, and Reset playing Falsad.
And on the right side in red is going to be that of Team Dignitas, as it's going to be Poik on the Tracer, JPL on the familiar Murd, and Snitch on Phoenix, Zelia on Stukov, Wubby on Dahaka. Give it up for Dignitas.
Clash here through the mid lane. Not so much kill potential within the, you know, kind of trinity I've been referring to before. Dignitas gonna go ahead and land a drag with 3-man jet propulsion. Katem response back there as the Iron Skin goes in, but look at that, forcing the burrow there onto Wubby already here. Gen.G picking up first blood.
The fact that they are coming out firing like this and they're not done yet, as Snitch is gonna be the second to fall there. I mean, that was a major route there for Magi, and that was insane. Or not Magi, but Sake. Man, I tell you, we got so many Korean players today, but that is a great start there for Gen.G.
Very surprising opener as well from Team Dignitas. The fact that they were willing to be able to try and risk that trade there rather than maybe relying a little bit onto the macro. And I can't help but feel like that is catering again to Poik there onto the Tracer without that Tassadar composition, that they're looking for those kill potentials, but it is going to be very, very difficult, as already with those first 2 kills for Gen.G is going to lead to a bit of map control as we see the back out here for those Giants. And already, you know, you got to start asking where's going to be the moment where Dignitas, you know, prove the rest of the world wrong.
Yeah, I think, you know, when you look at these compositions, as we see a little bit of aggression coming out here, we obviously have the global on the side of Dignitas with Wubby on that Dahaka. So it's a matter of could they afford to bring that down? And right now they realize, you know, losing those first few early kills wasn't something they could afford. So for Dignitas, they're going to keep it super neutral, super standard here to start this game.
The double Giants matching on the bottom half is going to be interesting to look at where these teams look to be able to get the priority, as Dignitas sticking to controlling that Bermuda Triangle. Very, very common, but with the dry lane down here, Malfurion, Hanzo, and Johanna pretty effective at getting the trade with the Giant rotation. I would expect Dignitas to eventually cater a transition up towards the top half of the map and look to get a little pressure onto the Blaze, since the bottom is, again, slowly but surely going in favor of Gen.G.
Right now we see the aggression here in the middle as Gen.G walking forward, just pushing Dignitas back, and without the wave clear, I mean, you and I were sitting back here hypothesizing as Poik eating quite a bit of damage. He's got to get out of there. And again, without the Tassadar, without the Malfurion, it is very difficult for Poik to sustain in these moments, and you can see Reset already looking for the channel.
Yeah, with the control on the top and the bottom half of the map, and again, as you said, the zoning there is a nice route, lands on Asake. Tist trying to get the body blocks onto Zelia. Kick out there will send JPL back home there. But first Dragonite of the game here for Gen.G. And again, now this is going to be watching them siege up with this Dragonite. That is going to lead to even more of an experience advantage here on the side of Gen.G. And you've got to, again, be looking at where is Team Dignitas going to be able to turn this around. It's very, very concerning, the fact that we saw that first trade go so heavily in favor of Gen.G. And then, again, the macro control so far ahead here on the members of Gen.G. Dragonite cycle. Mid-front wall, down to the bottom half.
When you dig this much of a hole, because you lack the wave clear, you go Murden, doesn't have much wave clear. Look on the other side, you've got a Johanna. Phoenix does have a little bit of Tracer, none. Falstad, of course, doing his job. Hanzo after level 4. It works heavily in favor of Gen.G in these early moments. So it's going to be a lot on Puck to get those pulse bombs, find those targets. But you can see Tis re-engaging. There's going to be the first pulse bomb. Not enough to do much damage this early in the game, but Dignitas trying to fight back, but they find themselves a level down, Dread.
Yeah, and that was about the first kind of, scuffle that we saw Dignitas have any kind of interest in forcing other than that level 1 matchup, and Gen.G wasted no time to be able to get the turnaround there. Tis was like, all right, I'll go ahead, drop the blind, hit a 3-man condemn, and as this game moves on, it's going to get harder and harder for Dignitas to be successful here as they try and deny this bottom night camp. Started by Gen.G, nice root and threat there once again from Reset. Trying to force it out. Rich maybe out a bit too far. Actually sidesteps the Stormbolt there. Silence comes out, but Zaylia and friends not able to pick it up. Gen.G here just towing the line so close there. Part of the reason we know Rich to be one of the best in the world.
It was funny because you could actually see that healing pulse going over towards Snitch, and he warped out right as he went in. Hold on a second, as JPL, he cannot get the dwarf toss out, and with that camp, this is something Wolf brings up a lot. Korean teams are not afraid to dive, and when you have minions, you have that camp, you can be aggressive. So Gen.G walked right in, took that kill, and continued to stretch this lead. That faith that if you're having a Dignitas starting to dwindle a little bit, because we're looking at a 2-level lead just 4.5 minutes in, Dread.
Yeah, and as you said that, the threat of diving past the forts and how much we see that out of the Korean teams. They were willing to do that when we had an extra turret in the back. We took that away, and now they're like, this is a playground. I don't even need minions half the time here. And Gen.G is making it look good. Gonna get that macro pressure out after that first Dragon Knight phase. Perfectly timing both of the camps to get split pressure onto the map. Even if Dignitas was on even footing, they would be miles behind through this game, just based on the macro play that we see here displayed by Gen.G. And at this moment, it is going to be inevitably a Dragon Knight phase to Gen.G. The question is, how much do they get done? And is the experience so far out of control that Dignitas can't redeem this game?
Dread, I think what scares me is we see rounding level 10 here for Gen.G. They're going to push forward. This tower is going to give it to him, but yet Dignitas is on a huge flank here. This is a very risky position for them to be in. As you can see, Point going out. There's going to be the Dragon Arrow going in. Scatter Arrow, not enough damage there, but they have a target in mind, and that is going to be Wubby. He's going to be locked in. I don't see him getting out, Dread.
Yeah, very unlikely that's going to be the case. Reset even finding himself a Point. Going to go ahead and take that 1v1 as he trades up there. First to drop into the skirmish, Wubby trying to cut it out. We did see a moment there with Zaylia. Ended up looking to get the pick onto Reset, but Tranquility forced out Gus to buy a bit more time, and an invade pickup there for the night camp. Double night camp on the top half of the map. This is inevitably top 4 is going to die from the siege. That's threatening keep after this is done. And I hate to break it to you, Jay, how a Dragon Knight's about to get picked up here, and still no level 9 for Team Dignitas. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this was the hope for the Western world to stand a chance against Gen.G.
I almost fear that we might see Gen.G go for an early kill, and I don't mean on heroes, I mean in the game. I mean, if you look at the team names, you say, all right, Gen.G, this might be the opportunity to go in. I almost wondered, could they do it in the top lane? Instead, they seem to be playing more for the long game here. This will get them towards 13, and they can continue to play around those talent tiers, basically keeping Dignitas behind the 8 ball. It is almost impossible going up against a team like Gen.G, the caliber that they are. If they get that level lead 13, they'll play you 13 to 10. They'll play you 16 to 13, and there's almost nothing you can do about it. Dignitas is having a very difficult time, but they are, however, Dreadnought starting to get closer to 10.
Yeah, Dignitas has just been dismantled for the first 6 minutes, and we got to be wondering, is that heroic moment here going to be enough to be able to turn this around? 50% still resides onto the Dragon Knight, sieging onto the key from wall. JPL looking for a flank Reset, able to sidestep that Stormbolt. Rich sets out a Scatter Arrow and sends JPL right back there. Always hitting massive. Dragon Arrow actually going to come up through. Poik threatening if he can make it on the back line. Ends up using the pulse bomb, but the kick is enough to get the kill there, sending Tracer right back. And now Gen.G wants to end up getting this keep.
Salvo's out is going to push them back for now, but minions are here. Now they're looking for the re-engage as Tisk goes in, starting to put pressure on Lurking Arm, trying to keep them at bay. JPL, however, taking a lot of damage, forcing him back. Tranquility's out. Keep following.
7.5 minutes into this game. That Scatter Arrow just cleans up Phoenix. Iron Skin eats the Stormbolt. JPL has to door toss out of here. And Gen.G pick up a Dragonshire keep that early. That is almost unheard of on an international tournament. Teams of this caliber, Gen.G is just on a tear. And now it just, again, feels like Dignitas so far out of this match, because having that much macro control, let's say this even recovers for Dignitas, there is going to be so much pressure in that southern lane that with the global on the side of Gen.G, I think that they're going to be able to out-rotate.
It's going to be difficult as we see a priority towards the camps. We've seen teams like Tempo Storm make this very move towards the Knights and potentially, or the Siege Giants, and then potentially the Knights. Dignitas already rotating down there. This might be one of their best shots. See if Gen.G even bothers. I mean, they don't have to risk anything. With Blaze up in the top lane, Dragon Arrow's a whiff here, but we've got ourselves a fight. Blaze on his way down, but maybe not quick enough.
This is the best fight for Team Dignitas. Wubby already falling very low, though, and actually dropping the burrow. Isolation is going to be used along with the post bomb. The cleanse over the wall from Sake is not going to be enough as Point goes in and locks it down. 1-1 here. That bonus or underdog experience is going to be huge here for Team Dignitas, allowing them to recover a little bit in experience. But Wubby accepting his fate here at the very end, going down now 25 seconds out from what is likely to be another Dragonite for Gen.G.
The fact that Poik was able to get that takedown, unfortunately he died to the camp that still remained, but getting that takedown maybe saved a little bit and took some of the momentum out of Gen.G's sails, but make no mistake about it, this is Catapults, this is Siege Giants, this is Night Camps, all in the bot lane, and there's so much, and you can see the response from Dignitas. They realize their opportunities are slim. They are going in right now.
They're going to try and get this invade. Silence goes down. Cleanse already forced there from Sake. Poik not going to be able to make it around that territory there. Was Wubby looking to clear up that bottom lane and all that pressure. Bottom shrine control here for Gen.G. Make the transfer up to the top half of the map. Even in a worst case scenario here, Gen.G can wait it out for the 16 talents here and again force that Dragonite. Dignitas feels like they have found themselves here in a lose-lose scenario, even pre-10 minutes on Dragonshire.
I think the Dignitas does understand that an early DK at this level is threatening with Gen.G supporting it, but it's not necessarily a super strong DK that it can just walk up to the core and have the same success rate. And that's why we see Gen.G turning their attention towards 16 here. They'll get it off of this key ball. It's just a matter of do they continue to press in, take more map control, and snowball and eventually choke Dignitas out via talents. And that 20-16, 20-17 spike, it seems like they might do that, but make no mistake about it, they might look for a kill and see if they can end it right now.
Kick away, able to zone out. Poik not going to have any threat for now. Snitch getting poke and prod there by Rich, setting to below 50% HP. Keep is going to be live victim there. Wubby actually getting caught by a Sake root. Zalia looking for the massive shove away. That's going to set Reset only halfway through the battleground. He makes a easy kite back here as the second keep of the game, lying victim to Gen.G. Dragon's Arrow comes out. Another whiff there. Reset ends up getting pulled, but Sake with the Nature's Cure. Poik, though, comes in with a pulse bomb, forcing the Trank, and they're just fine. Blessed Shield response. Tis and friends, they're looking to move forward here as Gen.G has found themselves on the core.
Shield starting to fall, and they're pushing pressure onto this, but I don't know if they can end just now. Catapults are at their back, and they're looking to be on this as the shield's starting to fall. Dignitas looking to hold as the massive shove is going to miss. JPL taking so much damage. Salvo out in return, Dreadnought.
Salvo out in return, and look at that. We see Tis too far out there, and he's actually going to drop. JPL ends up keeping himself alive. Reset still yet to use that gust. Drive's going to land there from Wubby, pulling him into turret range. Gen.G here, very risky as the pulse bomb goes in and the damage is there. Dignitas is able to hold this out 80% onto their core. Gen.G maybe biting off a bit more than they can chew, but it is still a 3-level lead here for Gen.G.
It could, this is actually a weird moment. As we see Zalia with the massive shove, it's like, hey, wait a minute, order and deliver. I got a Sake here, as that is another kill. And all the while, this contributes towards that comeback XP for Dignitas, who are now starting to look at 16. Yes, they're down 2 keeps, but this is a much brighter comeback than we would have seen just 30 seconds ago. So for Dignitas, all hope is not yet lost.
Yeah, and I feel like that came down to that Dragonite scaling you were talking about earlier. The Dragonite is very, very slow to be able to siege up in the earlier stages, only being the second here of that game. Even though we did see the keeps ended up dropping, which, by the way, great natural agility there to get the dodge on Rich, or from Rich, but as we talked about, the scaling is just not enough to be able to get that kill potential onto heroes and things of the like. It's only effective at sieging, and by the time it made it to chorus, Dragon's Arrow actually gets sent out. Murden ends up falling. Interesting decision-making there from Gen.G here, but at this point in time, it's still massive control coming out from them. 63% only resides on the core. We're 15 seconds out. The silver lining here, Dignitas, for the first time in a hot while, has the same talents here as Gen.G to hold off.
Well, same talent here, but no Murd, and at least not for another 20 seconds. Gen.G regaining control of this game as they now have control of that bot shrine. Starting to move top. Dignitas understands this is exactly where Gen.G wants to be. See if they can find it. There's going to be the root. There's going to be the pulse bomb. There's going to be the lockdown. No bunker going down here. Perfectly played by Dignitas.
But if they can delay these backs, there are double giants stacking on the bottom half of the map along with the catapults. Wubby actually using that brush talk to make it to the bottom lane, deny the control over that bottom shrine for Gen.G. So now 35 seconds out from getting that blaze back online. Dignitas hold out here even longer. No structures to claim for their own. They're still going to need to be able to stagger these Zeth even further, but let's be real, they're holding off much longer than I feel like I even expected.
I'm right there with you. As you can see, Tist and company going in, starting to take control of the Shrine. The DK is about to be channeled. Murden's trying to make it there. We should have a Gust there. Perfect play by Reset. That's going to set up the Gust. And this is what sets Gen.G apart from every other team. And now we are looking at a DK that is stronger, that is able to take down the core, especially the fact that it's sitting at 45%. But they're going to wait for Blaze here, Dread.
Yeah, and that is exactly what I'm going to highlight, is the fact that Rich, the minute he gets into the Dragon Knight, there was no stepping to the right-hand side. They know that this is their win condition. They are going to look to end this game. And Dignitas identifies that. They know bottom has got to be the rotation that they're going to make. So Dignitas is hoping they step too far from the Dragon Knight and get a flank, as you see JPL in your top left-hand corner looking for Sake, but the kill potential has got to be so low as he's still fleeing. Nobody sees him. Wubby falling low. The Root's going to zone out. He dodges the jet propulsion. Stormbolt goes in, but the immediate kickback there from the Dragon Knight.
Salvo out, Snitch under pressure. There's going to be one takedown on the Blaze. Tranquility's still there. This Dragon Knight still very healthy. 30 seconds left on it. Poik putting pressure onto that DK. The boot's going to come in. Recall's going to be used, which adds Poik in the back. Ice block already used. That's going to be the drag in with the salvo. Here we go, Trey.
But the Dragon Knight is going for the core there. Reset buys a bit of time there with the Gust, but JPL wants to make sure he gets the kill, misses the Stormbolt, so Reset can barrel away. Dragon Knight makes it to the core. 45% as the shielding now is just going to get removed. Rich has no damage onto the core, and with that, Team Dignitas hold off this game.
There is almost no world where I saw this happening, but Dignitas now takes an experience advantage, Dreadnought. They still have all structures in their way on the side of Gen.G, but Dignitas starting to mount what could be a miracle comeback.
Absolute miracle comeback. Remind everybody here at home that there was a 7-minute bottom keep followed by like a 9-minute mid keep here. Amazing here, the fact that Team Dignitas is able to hold off. I will say, I can't help but feel like this is Gen.G biting off a little bit more than they can chew, maybe playing with their food a little bit. But in the end, Dignitas now has massive control of the battleground. They need to be able to paint it red, control those mercenaries on the bottom half of the map, stack them, and never let the members of Gen.G go to the red half here of the battleground. And that's exactly what they're looking to make happen here with these Giants.
I'd love to see Dignitas potentially double up on this, get that bottom night the same way we do, and start to run it down a little bit. You have the 20-tier advantage, but we also have the opportunity for them to get a DK. We are getting late enough to where the probability of getting a DK at this level is still pretty low in terms of ending the game, but Dignitas might be in desperation mode because they might just be forced to end as they do have that 20-tier advantage. We'll see if they can get a DK for themselves to try and turn this around, but they are going to turn their attention over to these camps.
They will be able to stack these into their favor. We have to remember that the catapults so heavily in favor of Gen.G when it comes to the mid-vision. In the top half of the map with that Knight cycling out, that Wubby is not likely to be able to control that top shrine. And Dignitas is going to, or Gen.G, excuse me, is going to have a pretty reasonable and easy response here on to Team Dignitas. And what I'm trying to highlight is that the responsibility of making the play, surprisingly enough, after 3 core attempts here, is still on Team Dignitas.
It is. Right now we see the camps picked up. Dignitas not opting to go down there. They realize that priority. They need to get control of that top lane. Falstad just kind of hanging out, realizing there's no way in the world he can step out. But the camp's being dealt with down here by Gen.G. Remember, the catapults are also in this lane. So once they clear this up, that control will be there. Zelia snuck down here. DK, see if Blaze and team can get over here for the interrupt. This is an opportunity, Dreadnought, for Dignitas to potentially just try and force this. They might be in the situation where we saw just last series where you have to do this.
Yeah, they absolutely need to just be on the side of Gen.G's battleground here and not let go. There is no opportunity to kind of risk that. And already you see Reset prepping that mid lane, knowing that eventually that is going to be a win condition if Dignitas has to stay on the bottom half of the battleground for way too long here.
This is minimum keep. Minimum keep or bust. Right now, Lurking Arm goes down. It's going to zone out several members of Gen.G as the wall starts to fall here. Remember, that is Dahaka in there. He has the contagion, the big isolation, the AoE isolation, so that is not available unless he pops out of that. Keep starting to be assaulted here by Dignitas.
Dragon Knight already falling below 30% HP. Keep falling to 50. Kyocha questioning if he wants to move up. Zelia going to go ahead and use a nice, massive shove, pushing Tist and friends away.
Falstad Falstad sneaking around. He could be looking for the flight engage, but that's going to be Poik going down. Here comes the gust. That's going to be every member of Dignitas minus the DK going in. Zalia surviving for now. Salvo in return, but that's going to be Stukov falling. Salvo does take down Falstad. JPL and team trying to survive, Dread.
They're trying to survive, but that jab proposed locks down Phoenix once more. Snitch trying to cut away. Keep in mind, there are catapults mounting into the mid lane, but they actually turned it there. Snitch abusing that 20 there and able to get the kill onto Kyoja. He's going to go back and deal with the catapults onto the core. But Wubby not going to share the same fate here, as it is a 2-for-3 trade in favor of Gen.G.
Keeps have been neutralized. 3 versus 2 right now. I don't think Gen.G has the same type of gusto within them to just run it down the same way they did before, but they are going to have camps. They do have catapults. JPL sniffs out one. Goes out the Stormball. It's more of a warning shot right there. Right now, Muradin and Phoenix, JPL and Snitch are all that stands right now between Gen.G and the core. And right now, I think it's going to be enough, Dread.
Night pressure towards that top half of the map. It's not going to be able to be stacked, at least not yet. But it will be annoying for Dignitas. If you notice, Gen.G is doing a very efficient job of timing that top half of the map and getting the pressure always there whenever the Dragon Knight's up. So Wubby has one rotation to be able to make, and it's always, you know, through the vision. And that is why we've seen the desperation here on some of the skirmishes from Team Dignitas, is because vision in those rotations on the top half are far too difficult. Bottom mercenaries end up spawning. Zalia trying to get the scout out there, knowing that that has got to be where Gen.G is at.
That scatter arrow, that thing's just going to get shredded there. We saw a quick look at that hero damage numbers. Rich is destroying people on Hanzo this game. Let's see if he can help finish the job here. Shrines activating here in 15 seconds. Bottom lane is going to be neutralized before it starts. The global on the side of Dignitas. Only catapult advantage mid lane for Gen.G, but there is a huge advantage when we look at the core numbers. Is 45% still all that's left on Dignitas. And right now, that night camp, again, as you alluded to, being timed perfectly by Gen.G up at the top left.
And what that does is force Dignitas to have to take the fight on the bottom half of the map, and it pretty much has to be through a brushstock miracle contagion play. That is the only way I see Dignitas being able to get the recovery at this stage of the game. Wubby going back to the middle half to deal with the catapults, as that is going to be a problem here. And it's when does Gen.G want to strike here on the bottom half of the map? It is very much their fight to choose at this point in time, J-How.
I think for Dignitas right now, they're making a good play over towards that camp, but the flank, of course, here by Tist, going to be sniffed out courtesy of the vision provided by that catapult. They think twice about that. They're going to hold position here. Oil goes down. Kyocha throwing down some more, getting vision, sees that Dignitas is there. Do have eyes on Wubby in that top lane. Falstad still not showing either. That's the main thing. I think now he's starting to soft push that mid lane.
Yeah, he's going to be able to draw aggro, as Wubby is now going to display himself on the top half of the map. Question is, do we see a brushstock attempt, as those Knights are still problematic in that top lane?
I think Tracer should be able to handle that wave in the middle. As you can see, hammering goes out. Wubby lurking in the bush, trying to find an opportunity. Vision provided there by Rich down at the bottom side of the screen. Scatter arrow continuing to go out. Camp will be pushing in that top lane. That has to be responded to. Phoenix questioning it. Dignitas, you can tell this is getting tense as the rotation down for Gen.G towards that bottom shrine. It's about to happen.
Falstad ends up using his flight, so no flight gust in the same manner that we just saw. Pressure going to be dropped here. Silence actually there along with the pulse bomb damage. It gets stuck, but we see Blaze able to survive. Wubby questioning if he wants to flank here, as Tranquility already forced. Wubby going for a huge flank here. Poik looking to move up.
Contagion is landed. That's going to be on 3 people there. Isolated Test. There's going to be the drag. The Gust is going to save multiple members. Kyoto on the re-engage. That's going to be the burrow down. And JPL is on the front line, but Stukov falls on the back, Dread.
Reset is just cleaning up shop there after that Gust. Wubby ends up getting the pull back. Snitch trying to keep himself alive, but one more boomerang out there. And Gen.G 1-for-2 trade in favor. 3 members of Team Dignitas end up going down as that top keep fell to that night camp pressure. And with this, it is going to be a Dragon Knight end game. Gen.G with absolute domination on the opening of this match, but Dignitas holding out much longer than I can't help but feel like everyone was thinking.
I mean, if you're Dignitas, you have to look at that, and the fact that you were able to survive that has to give you some confidence going into this best of 5. This is only game number 1. Gen.G, I mean, not as clean as we would have liked, Dreadnought, but nonetheless, they dominated the early game, got a little bit, you know, a little bit soft, I guess, a little bit easy on that mid game, but they were able to close out game number 1 here against Dignitas.
You know, this is something that the idea of too much confidence being displayed on Gen.G. It's hard to critique a team as dominant and lopsided of results as they have, but I can't help but feel like even when we refer back to that Spring Global Championship era, there was definitely moments of being too confident that teams were at moments able to kind of humble them later on as we moved on to the Gold League. And I can't help but feel like I'm surprised that we see that here, because again, this is the one title Gen.G is yet to earn for themselves, that they are willing to kind of, you know, risk some of that decision making. That being said, I also love the fact that they're just willing to go 13 minutes. Yeah, let's end a Dragonite game.
I mean, it felt weird because it's like, well, the first one we talked about, you can't just run it down. And then the second one, they're like, yeah, we're fine. We got this. But you got to give credit to Dignitas that was able to do that. And I'm sure we've got a couple of people back at the desk that will be more than happy to break down some of the key moments of this game.
Hello. There you go. Press the button. There we go. So, overall, Dignitas being able to try and hold on at the very end there, but I think what's important to take away from that game, Skimmy, is the first 10 minutes of that game was a massive statement from Gen.G, who looked utterly formidable and downright scary.
I mean, you got mercenary control, you got minion control, you're just getting kills left, right, and center. You're getting a double kill before that 30-second mark. That just, for me, showcasing how strong they are. The 10 minutes at the start, you're getting a 4-level lead against a world-class opponent like Dignitas. The second 10 minutes, however, as the commentators were saying, it felt like Gen.G were just playing with their food and having a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I think, some overextensions by Gen.G. You know, yeah. I think thinking they could end the game with that first core push was a little bit overzealous. The second one as well. I think just really trying to make a statement, as you said, ended up kind of backfiring on them a little bit because they ended up looking like a bit silly towards the middle part of the game. But their late game was strong. They had the keep advantage, and I guess that's all that really matters is whether you win or lose. And they did take those last team fights pretty well.
I mean, the only thing I have to say is it's honestly just straight up stupid how good these guys are. It's like absolutely insane. Because just looking at that, we have them overextending at the core where they think like, well, we got 2 keeps now, there's nothing else. Let's at least go for it. They get wiped twice. Dignitas takes a Storm Talent advantage as a level lead. And still the entire time I watched this, I was like, there is no way that Gen.G is actually losing that.
Right.
And that's insane because against any other opponent, I would be right there saying, okay, Dignitas has this now. They're going to turn this around. The opponent was too overconfident. Now they get punished. But even at that moment, you look at it and it's like, is Gen.G actually going to lose this? And even then, I didn't believe. It's crazy how good those guys are. It's actually insane.
I mean, that's why I use the description of downright scary, because Dignitas, Team Dignitas, is a world-class team that were in the grand finals last year of this, admittedly a different roster, but now then you see Gen.G performing in the first 10 minutes as they did, utterly terrifying.
I was sitting next to Tetra, and at some point Tetra just turns around, looks at me and says like, I've never seen Whoopi get bodied this hard.
Right.
And we're talking Whoopi here. Like, straight out the best solo laner that we have. Finals. Exactly. Like, one final after another, and he just dominates the solo lanes. But when he goes into these fights, he got shut down so quickly. And I have never seen a team make it happen this consistently.
Wolf, what do we have?
So I just have one quick replay. Let's keep it frozen here. So I want to talk about something is the Tracer versus Genji matchup. You often feel like as the Tracer, you can bully the Genji, you can get a pick on him. If you look at the game, we're at 18 minutes here, and we're getting to the point of the game where Dignitas has to make a big play. They're 2 keeps down, but their Dragon Knight got burned down super low. It's at 28%, as you can see here. If you roll it forward, you're going to see that even though it seems like it's time to leave, they want to get this keep at least. So they're focusing it down. But watch Poik. He's going to sneak around back here and try to kill Rich. He's going to fail, though, and actually ends up hitting a minion. And if you pause it right now, look at where Poik is. Dragon Knight has to still get the keep. That's minimum, right? That's exactly what the caster says. Well, minimum, you have to get this keep. Everyone else on the side of Dignitas is posturing for a retreat. But Poik is now in a position, because he did go for that attempted pulse bomb, where he's going to get caught by a Dragon's Arrow that comes out here from Rich. So if you roll it forward, you're going to see he gets caught. Bam. Now, if we pause it here, you can see that he's going to get blown up. There's no hope. There's no hope whatsoever. Daka's about to have this Dragon Knight explosion, so that's somewhat of a disengaged tool they could try to use to get out. But where's Falstad? Look at the mini-map. Uh-oh, this is going to get real bad. So we're going to see Falstad fly down. Gust's going to come in here right like this. And then suddenly, with that one pick, everything is opened up, and there's no way for Dignitas to win this fight anymore. They're caught. They're trapped by the wind tunnel, which has become quite meta throughout this tournament, actually, which is pretty cool to see. And that's the end of the story there. So, you know, just one moment of indecision, Are we committing here? Are we trying to get a pick? Are we trying to get these kills? Or are we going to leave, finish the keep off later? They went for the keep. Poik goes for the kill. They get the keep, but they lose Poik. They don't have track of Falstad. He comes in and gets the Gust. So there's a few things going wrong in this one moment when you have this global hero Falstad that's not just global for Soap, but global for impact and can set up a lot of these team fights.
The one thing that I still want to say is, like, once we came to the team fighting state of the game where we actually had that back and forth, Dignitas actually played really well there. It's just that I'm not trying to take anything away from that. It's just that Genji is absolutely amazing. But the way that Dignitas coordinated and started to drive the agenda a little bit, I think that's what they need to do in any upcoming game if they want to have a chance. They need to be the ones from the get-go to really just put their mark on the map, because if they fail to do that, then especially after that little bit of a wake-up call that we just saw from Gen.G, the Koreans are just going to go roll over them.